The story follows Sane, a boy chosen by a goddess to become a holy knight long before he even understood what it meant to be. As he grows, he single-handedly defeated a monster, and the people, along with the holy knights, praise him as a prodigy blessed with power and magical knowledge rivaling sages, convinced that their nation will remain safe under his future leadership. Just a few days later, in the Holy Kingdom, Sane was enraged, seeing a newspaper article that painted him as a goddess-blessed holy knight destined to lead the entire nation. He had already enrolled himself in a harsh magic academy, hoping to get far away from all the praise and expectations that kept piling onto him. But then, his proud father appeared, and he was thrilled that Sane was receiving so much admiration as a holy knight, and was now going to a foreign land to test himself. But while Sane tried to explain that he was aiming for something completely different, his father didn't listen for even a second. He started writing a letter to the headmaster, who happened to be an old friend of his, demanding that they give Sane special treatment, and with no escape, Sane left the Holy Kingdom behind. Back in the present, he is snapped out of his thoughts by Melia, his maid, who scolds him like a pissed-off mom for ignoring her voice, and informs him they have arrived. But then Sane realizes now this is his new world, and he steps out of the carriage, faces the Magic Academy, wondering if this is truly the place where he can fulfill his ambition as he takes his first step toward becoming a Dark Knight. While walking beside Melia towards the academy, Sane knows he isn't here to relax anyway. He'd come to escape the Holy Kingdom and finally pursue the Great Darkness. The halls are mostly empty, but Melia says it is because ability measurements are happening, and everyone is already in the auditorium. Sane relieves. Fewer people meant fewer headaches, and he wants to finish the headmaster's task quickly, but Melia asks if he is ready. He says he'd been wearing the sealing charm since morning, and she warned it was risky, but he is sure no one would recognize the custom seals. When she asks what he plans to do with his light magic sealed, he proudly raises his wrist, claiming he'd mastered darkness magic through training. Then he chants, sparks pop, and only smoke comes out. Melia quietly asks if he even remembered the spell and whether his success rate is always this terrible. Sane ignores her jab while she sighs and leads him toward the auditorium. Inside, Sane examines the academy's barrier and immediately notices that over 10 famous sorcerers created it. However, still tiny compared to the divine barrier back home, and he even spots a small tear he can fix easily. The pure, holy atmosphere keeps him on edge, and he quietly wonders why he came all this way. Melia reminds him that this kind of pressure used to be normal for him, and that if he used his real power, none of these preparations would even be necessary. She scribbles something down, signals him to begin, and Sane raises his hand. He strengthens the barrier perfectly, and that goddess appears behind him, pouring divine power into his spell. The moment the reinforcement finishes, he drops to his knees, completely drained. Melia praises him and asks what's bothering him. Then Sane complains that the goddess is going overboard again just because he's attending this school. She decided it needs top-tier protection. Now the place has medium divine protection and a divine beast on standby. Melia thinks that sounds like a great deal, but Sane insists the goddess worries too much and treats him like a child. Even so, Melia can't help noticing he actually looks a little happy about it. Just as he tells Melia they should leave since their task is done, a voice suddenly shouts for them to stop. The golden-haired girl steps forward, glaring at them and accusing them of being intruders before ordering them to surrender on the spot. Sane freezes when the girl suddenly yells at them, completely confused, and panics even more when she points at him and calls him suspicious. For a moment, he's convinced she's already figured him out, then she fires a fireball straight at his face. He scrambles back, shouting that it's all a misunderstanding and there's no need for magic, but she keeps attacking until the divine beast that was just summoned appears. The girl finally notices the beast and panics. Then Sane frantically blocks the spell while the beast roars, and the situation gets worse by the second. When the beast charges, he grabs the girl and yanks her aside, scolding her for not waiting, then steps forward and orders the beast to stop, though things are already far too chaotic. Realizing this won't end, Melia smacks Sane's head as his edgy aura practically pops, and she says that once they cut Mr. Sane's energy supply, it disappears as she expected. The girl is left trembling in shock, staring at him like he's something unreal. After a while, she finishes bandaging his bruised head, and Sane asks if she really couldn't think of a gentler way. Once the girl calms down and recognizes he is actually a student, she apologizes for doubting him, though she still complains that it was his fault for wearing such a shady outfit. Sane tries to explain that he is literally wearing the academy uniform, which surprises her, and he adds that they both have the headmaster's permission to wear these special uniforms. Alicia then points out she has never seen them around, so Sane and Melia introduce themselves as new admits. The girl introduces herself as Alicia, saying she will be in the same class starting tomorrow and hopes they can forget what happened. Sane asks for her family name out of curiosity, but she says she prefers being called Alicia, so he accepts it, but with a mischievous smile calls her the Golden Princess, which irritates her until he explains it is because of her golden hair. She mutters that a shorter name would have been better, so he teasingly changes it to Miss Gold, which annoys her even more since he drops the princess part. Realizing she is late for the ability measurements, she rushes off, and Sane blames her for making them late as well, and the three of them hurry together while Sane grows increasingly annoyed by her attitude. On the way, Alicia asks why they were wandering around, and Melia explains that they had some time before the measurements. So they were exploring and found a room with a strange atmosphere, and Alicia casually agrees that it is a nice place she visits whenever she wants to be alone. Later at the measurement site, she cannot help snapping that Sane stands out too much and looks unnecessarily flashy, since he is wrapped in a dark aura while trying to appear calm and cold, declaring this as the fate of one seduced by darkness. Shocking Alicia because she wonders if he truly intends to behave like this, though Sane seems confident. As soon as he steps forward, the entire hall starts whispering about his black armor and cloak, wondering if he is a dark knight, and Sane quietly struggles to suppress his dark power while Alicia stares at his trembling form, thinking it must be some sort of performance, though Melia is the only one who knows he is actually out of breath and fighting for composure. While Alicia focuses on the measurements, and Melia shows interest in the examination globe, and Alicia explains that it is a magic device that determines lineage and proficiency levels, saying that the lineages are divided into light, dark, and the 5 elements of fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning, and that magic closer to one's lineage is easier to use, while the proficiency level shows the maximum magic power a person can handle at once. Melia nods, and soon her turn arrives, and Alicia asks Sane if Melia is strong, to which Sane replies that Melia is no match for her. But as a maid, she is exceptional, and the results show fire and water at B rank and earth, wind, and lightning at C rank. Sane immediately puffs his chest like a proud master, and Melia thanks him. He then notices how all eyes are glued to her, so he comments that she will be popular anywhere she goes, prompting Melia to ask whether he minds if boys approach or flirt with her. Sane a dumb laugh and says he would never cage her, and that if she likes someone, it is nothing to worry about, which makes Melia flare up in irritation and jealousy, cursing him, leaving Sane confused about why saying something wise earns him such a harsh reaction. Alicia's name is then called, and she steps forward after Sane informs her, telling him not to look at her while an intense heaviness fills the air during her test. Eventually, it becomes Sane's turn, and he steps forward, determined to let his dark aura shake the world. He places his hand on the globe while imagining himself accepting a great trial from a teacher whom he does not even know. His aura swirls. He wonders if any magic device can measure the vast darkness within him. A moment later, the teacher calmly declares his result as F rank, leaving him completely stunned, and when she repeats it, he panics and claims he must have surpassed his limits and should be allowed to demonstrate his true strength. But the teacher immediately calls for the next student while he begs for just one more chance. The surrounding students whisper that beginners rank higher than this nerd, and only then does Sane realize something is terribly wrong. Sane keeps seeing the scene of the teacher calling him F rank and humiliating him, and the moment it repeats, he jolts awake, startled, only to find Melia sitting beside him, telling him it really did happen. While he still refuses to accept it, Melia asks how long he plans to stay depressed over something like that. Later, at the physical measurements, it finally becomes Sane's turn, and Alicia drags him forward, telling him to hurry. During the running test, Melia offers him to run together, but he insists she shouldn't worry about him. and determined to make up for his earlier failure, he charges ahead with full motivation, leaving the others behind for a brief moment before immediately running out of breath as everyone effortlessly overtakes him. Then he wonders where Melia is, only to watch her casually jogging past him with that look that makes him realize she is teasing him on purpose. And even Alicia is shocked at how effortlessly Melia proves good at everything, though Melia just comforts her while Alicia mutters that she will have to train harder from now on. When Alicia's own results come out as D rank, she fumes over how they keep losing to the boys in raw strength, while Sane sits nearby trying to recover. Alicia tries to cheer him up by asking his rank, and when Sane says it is E rank, Alicia still encourages him by saying at least it isn't F rank, and he sadly admits it. At the hall, when Melia finishes her interview and leaves the room, Sane asks her about it as she reveals that it went well, and then it becomes Sane's turn. With a strange, uncomfortable smile, he senses the heavy pressure coming from beyond the door before hearing the teacher call him inside. He enters and introduces himself, and the panel allows him to sit. The room includes the student council president, the vice president, the deputy head teacher, and the headmaster, and the teacher welcomes him to the academy while apologizing for getting straight to the point, saying they reviewed his results and found his magic measurement at F rank and his physical ability at E rank, making him the first student ever to score below E rank in both categories. She bluntly questions whether his enrolling in this academy is meant to be some kind of joke, but the headmaster tries to intervene and asks them to give Sane a chance, only for the teacher to silence him and coldly demand Sane explain what he has been doing with his life. The headmaster once again tries to defend him, saying Sane will surely push through, and the teacher comments that he seems to have a great deal of faith in the boy, before turning to the student council president and asking for his opinion. The president calmly explains that this academy is unlike other schools, at the same time valuing accomplishments above everything, which is why they accept the most new students in the country, yet also have the highest mortality rate before graduation. He then asks Sane whether he has what it takes to survive here, and warns that anyone who merely wants to test themselves ends up being the first to die. Hearing this, Sane finally speaks up, saying he has a dream and sees this academy only as a stepping stone, planning to leave as soon as he learns everything he needs. Mr. Kane smiles, finding his answer interesting, saying it means Sane has chosen the right place, and after approving, he turns to Miss Amelia to ask if she has anything to add, but she declines, and with that, Sane is dismissed. Outside, Melia immediately asks about his interview, but he tells her he was hit with harsh words, and Alicia adds that Mr. Kane and Amelia seemed frighteningly strict. When Sane mentions the president asking him what he had been doing all this time, Alicia is shocked and explains that the president is a terrifying genius whose strength makes people question whether he is even human, so she cannot believe he said that to Sane. Sane grins, saying the president clearly has a discerning eye capable of sensing the power he keeps hidden, but Alicia refuses to believe that and says he is making it up, though Sane denies it, which leaves her confused right before she is called inside next. Melia then looks at Sane, sensing he feels off, and he admits that he cannot answer the president's question because he has spent his whole life relying on the divine protection of the goddess without developing any personal skill. And now that he refuses to use the goddess's power, he has practically nothing left, which explains why his measurements were terrible. Melia tries to praise the hard work he has put in all this time, but Sane says he does not have a single ability earned through his own effort, and even so, he still plans to pursue the dark lineage to become a true Dark Knight. Melia changes the topic, says she finds it strange that the president claims to sense his true power, and Sane denies it and explains that he uses special tools to seal his energy, showing her his chain. But Melia calmly informs him the chain is broken, leaving Sane horrified and nearly peeing in his pants while she calls him an uncool idiot. Seeing the broken seal, Melia casually reminds him how confident he was about its durability, while Sane insists it was tough during testing. Then the headmaster pokes his head out of the room, asking for a minute. Later, in the office, the headmaster informs him that he has reinforced the barrier exactly as requested and thanks the Holy Knight. Though Sane awkwardly tells him to stop calling him that, the headmaster calmly insists that a man of Sane's position outranks even him. Sane then remembers he needs to report the broken seal and asks if it can be replaced, and the headmaster immediately recognizes the magic item that blocks divine light and assures him he will send a new one right away. Then Sane gets hit with another comment when the headmaster mentions how loud and suspicious his outfit looks, while Sane genuinely believes it is extremely subdued. The next morning, Sane puts on his seals like he's starring in his own low-budget edgy anime intro. He reminds himself that he is a follower of darkness and not some ordinary kid, and when he sees the holy symbols, he repeats to himself that he has nothing to do with light and that his path is completely different. Melia steps in and sees him surrounded by this overly dramatic dark aura and asks if he performs this weird emo ceremony every single morning. Sane tries to snap back in embarrassment, and she asks if he talked to the goddess in his dreams last night. Sane denies it, saying she didn't show up, maybe because it's the first day of school, though, reading the letter, he realizes the goddess might actually be losing her mind from liking him too much, which he reluctantly admits is at least some kind of growth. He then starts protesting again, telling Melia not to live in the room right next to his, while the maid tries to say something, but he keeps ranting about her treating him like a baby and teasing him too much. Before she can explain herself, he blurts out if she's doing it just to save money on rent, making her smack him hard before storming off, leaving Dumb still clueless about why. Later in the hall, Headmaster Molt congratulates the new students for completing their measurements and explains that the academy gathers students from all regions, all religions, and even different races, encouraging them to spend time together and broaden their horizons. He also reminds them that the academy's pride isn't just its large number of students, but the fact that it offers the #1 training environment on the entire continent, the most extreme dungeon where monsters, treasures, danger, and endless resources lie dormant. The academy possesses something entire countries fight over, and students are allowed to explore the dungeon freely if they dare, though the risks are equal to the rewards. When Sane spots Miss Gold, and Alicia immediately questions why he is still wearing that suspicious outfit, and after he brushes it off, he asks whether the class division is based on merit. But Alicia explains that the merit system only starts in the second year because right now the teachers don't know anyone's academic abilities, so this entire year will be the judging period. Sane realizes that failing to show results in the first year means being labeled a certified failure, and Alicia immediately declares that the two of them are rivals from now on, telling him not to resent her if they end up competing, before walking away. Sometime later, Sane and Alicia end up on the same desk, and Melia is behind them, and when Sane mentions how fast everything went, Alicia quietly admits she is not interested in either of them. Their homeroom teacher, Irina, appears, congratulates them on the new class, and says their first lesson is to introduce themselves and also show their best magic. Sane panics inside but pretends to stay calm. Melia goes first, chants her spell, and shows her crystal splash magic, earning praise for her great control, and she happily accepts the compliment while Sane stresses about his turn. Still, he steps forward, declaring that immense dark power lives inside him but is difficult to control, which is why he has come to refine his skills here, though his overly dramatic speech nearly gets him told to leave. Sane insists they look closely, extends his hand, tries to gather dark energy, watches it fluctuate uncontrollably, panics as he realizes he's failing again, and then suddenly a blazing dark flame erupts in front of him. He freezes in shock, then lights up with excitement at actually succeeding, and immediately slips into a superior tone, saying this is only a fraction of his power and people should avoid provoking the beast within him, while the entire class simply looks confused. Returning to his seat, he tells Alicia she can laugh if she wants, but she refuses. Alicia then introduces herself and prepares her magic while Sane and Melia whisper that Miss Gold seems strangely quiet, and Melia guesses she might be nervous. Then Alicia chants spells, launching a large fireball into the air, and Sane instantly realizes her power and control are far beyond normal. A few guys mock her for not being able to use light magic, and for saying she's from the light family. Alicia's eyes widen, and she quietly returns to her seat. Later, during lunch break, Alicia heads outside when Melia and Sane call out to her from behind. Alicia stops when Sane asks if she's feeling down, which startles her enough to snap at him about where he suddenly popped out from. Sane fires back that she shouldn't treat him like that, making her quickly apologize and admit she has been quiet because she feels awful about something she didn't want to say out loud. She explains that her family is a prestigious family of light, and being born outside the light lineage would be a shame for them. So even though she did inherit the light lineage, whenever she tries to use light magic, it somehow turns into fire magic instead. And Sane is stunned because the fire magic she used earlier looked extremely refined, making him think the gap between lineages shouldn't be so shallow if she can use such strong magic so easily. Alicia says she hasn't mastered anything yet, but Sane tells her it was still genuinely impressive even if he can't shake the feeling that something is off. Alicia then creates a small flame and hands it to Sane, who takes it and immediately screams in pain while cursing her, only to stop halfway when he realizes the flame isn't hot at all. She quietly explains that her magic is mostly for show, a fire that can't burn anything, something she can only use to intimidate, and she apologizes for fooling them earlier. Sane understands how hard it must have been for her to admit that and tells her not to worry, but Melia jumps in, casually teasing Sane by saying he's especially shameless, and that with an F rank so Alicia shouldn't feel bad around such a nerd. Alicia ends up laughing that neither of them changed their attitude toward her, even after hearing the truth. Sane asks if she feels better now and if she's fine sticking with fire magic, and Alicia says her teachers told her to study fire magic seriously because she shows no signs of ever being able to use light. Though with fire the issue is just her method, and that if she tries hard she'll reach her potential. But she still wants to use light because her family is kind to her, and that kindness only makes her want to meet their expectations even more. So she wants the power of light for the sake of the family as well as herself. Sane drifts into his own thoughts, remembering he has something he has longed for years, something he wouldn't trade for anything, something he will cast everything aside to obtain. And then he tells Alicia that if she truly wants light magic, she should never give in to temptation or relax until it is in her hands, and that even if something else falls into her grasp, she should treat it as fake, because accepting it will lead her down a path of giving up. Alicia, surprised by how serious he sounds, asks what he means, and Sane says a friend who tempts you into the abyss is worse than an enemy you can easily reject, so she should hold on to her conviction. Alicia blinks in surprise, asking if he's actually encouraging her instead of making fun of her. And when he says they're the same because he wants something too, she gets flustered, saying he shouldn't lump them together because she didn't expect anything like this from him, admitting her first impression of him was wrong since he's actually a decent person. Then she awkwardly asks if he's a priest, and Sane gets embarrassed and tells her to stop, so she changes the subject and asks what his goal really is. Sane sighs and admits that what he said in class about mastering dark power was a lie, and his true objective is to become a dark knight, shocking Alicia because most people dream of being holy knights, and she has never heard anyone openly aim for the dark side. He explains that their world has two gods, one a goddess who blesses the good with holy power and one a god who judges evil, and that holy knights blessed by the goddess are praised as heroes who save people, while dark knights blessed by the dark gods specialize in defeating monsters and criminals, but are constantly hated, feared, and hunted because of the blood they shed. Sane tells her she doesn't understand how incredible the dark aura is, but Alicia flatly rejects that, saying she now understands why he turned out like this, and that this is going to be a headache for Melia, who instantly agrees. Alicia then asks seriously how he expects to become a dark knight since the blessing is directly inherited, and Sane explains that dark knights use the world's dark magic, and the god's blessing strengthens those arts. And when she asks what happens if a dark magic user surpasses even a knight who carries the god's power, Sane says the power would probably be better used that way. She's stunned that he thinks a normal human could surpass a chosen knight, and he admits that might be the only way since gods don't hand out power just because they like someone, and only the most suitable individuals ever become knights. Sane realizes she'll think he's insane, and she admits she does think his ideas are idiotic, but some of what he said strangely makes sense. He says he won't give up on his dream no matter what hardships come, and that refusing to give up is what makes him invincible, causing Alicia to stare at him and finally call him an idiot, though she also admits his stupidity is somehow motivating. She then declares that if an idiot like him can chase a dream, then she refuses to fall behind. With determination in her eyes, Alicia looks straight at Sane and announces that she is going to search for the sacred sword, and Sane isn't even surprised because he already expected this to happen. Later in class, their teacher begins explaining that in their world, various special weapons exist, and among them, sacred swords and demon swords hold the highest rank. Although most of these weapons are managed strictly by the kingdom, and their quality varies depending on the craftsman, only a handful are truly exceptional, yet all of them are still considered powerful arms. The teacher continues and mentions that a few sacred and demon swords are actually placed somewhere inside the academy's dungeon, so if the students ever get the chance, they should try searching for them. And at that moment, Alicia becomes completely fixated on the idea because she heard rumors that a sacred sword capable of boosting light magic had recently been stored there. And the thought that she might finally be able to use light magic fills her with excitement. Sane quietly smirks, thinking her determination is honestly impressive, but he still warns her that the dungeon is extremely dangerous, so she should be careful. But Alicia snaps that she never asked him to follow her anyway, only to immediately contradict herself by telling him to come with her, while Sane acts dramatic and says he has no interest in sacred swords at all, and even tells her to give up the idea. Alicia gets frustrated, demanding to know how he could just let her go alone, especially calling himself someone who aims to be a dark knight. Sane says that if he gets involved, then he is committed to taking responsibility all the way to the end, which leaves Alicia flustered and unable to think of a proper comeback. Sane then asks why she is only asking him, and Alicia, annoyed and shy, mutters that it's because he looks lonely and seems like someone who doesn't have friends, which makes him snap that he isn't lonely and simply prefers solitude. But Alicia clings on harder and says she likes the same weirdo, and that lonely people should stick together, especially since he claimed they both were crazy. Sane tries to shut down her persuasion by revealing that getting close to a sacred sword would break a taboo for him, so he absolutely cannot go, and Melia casually explains to Alicia that Sane is basically allergic to sacred swords. Alicia tries emotional acting, saying she understands his situation, but he is the only person she can rely on, and when she pleads again, Sane arrogantly claims he has nothing to gain from this journey. Alicia immediately brings up the demon swords and reminds him that the teacher mentioned special weapons are hidden throughout the dungeon. So she tempts him by saying a demon sword that enhances dark power would bring him closer to becoming a dark knight. She adds that sacred swords and demon swords are actually not that different, and that a skilled blacksmith can transform one into the other, completely shocking Sane. She insists that she studied sacred swords a long time ago, and she is sure, but Sane refuses to believe it because he knows everything about such things, though the moment he shouts, he suddenly wonders if the goddess deliberately hid that information from him to prevent him from becoming a dark knight. Alicia stares in disbelief at his nonsense, and Sane, now furious, declares that the goddess is acting way too clever and hiding something important. And when he tries to challenge the sacred book, the book retaliates with a violent burst of magic that strikes him down. He screams in pain while both girls panic, and moments later, he is lying on the floor with smoke rising off his bandaged body as Melia scolds him not to damage holy books next time. Sane, realizing once again that nothing good comes from getting involved with sacred swords, admits deep down that all this chaos wasn't even related, but still insists that the idea of a sword that amplifies dark power is beyond amazing. With fiery determination, he declares that to obtain such an item, he will gladly accompany Alicia, though Alicia, a little embarrassed, mutters that she might actually be better off going alone. Before heading into the dungeon, they decide to shop for supplies, and they arrive at a weapon shop where Sane instantly loses all his brain cells and behaves like an overexcited child surrounded by sharp objects. Alicia glances at Melia and wonders if someone so good at magic is also good with weapons, and Melia casually says she can handle pretty much anything with a blade, which makes Alicia conclude that the two of them could fight either in the vanguard or back row while she supports from behind with magic. But Sane snaps that she was the one begging them for help in the first place, so Alicia quickly says she was just joking. She then tells Sane that the first step is choosing a weapon and pushes the store clerk aside while shouting orders. But at that exact moment, a huge crate full of weapons topples over and crashes directly onto Sane, burying him under blades and metal while a panicked girl loses her balance next to the fallen crate, and Alicia sighs in exasperation, saying it's just as careless as always. As Alicia calls out the girl's name, Siska, the girl looks confused. Alicia then remarks that Sane was unbelievably close to dying before even reaching the dungeon, and he apologizes while Siska turns to her, saying she hasn't seen Alicia in a while and asking about the people with her. Then Alicia introduces Sane as the Black One and Melia as the maid, and Siska cheerfully greets them, which immediately makes Sane jealous until Siska teases Alicia about being a loner with no friends, and reminds her that until last year her only choices were staying alone or sticking with her, making Alicia fluster and tell her to shut up while Sane gives her a smug thumbs up that only annoys her more. Siska eyes them both and says so they're the new students, then pauses at Sane's suspicious outfit and asks if that's actually his school uniform. And Sane casually says he only made a few minor alterations, which makes Alicia lean closer in surprise while Sane tries to shrink away. But she refuses to miss the chance to roast him and tells him to stop wearing black as if it's a psychic insight, a lie so obvious everyone can tell. Even as the situation gets messy, Siska grows more interested in his black outfit, saying it looks dangerous, but Alicia calls everything he says complete nonsense. Still, Siska admits the outfit really does give off danger vibes and even flinches at Alicia's sharp tone. But when Alicia finally loses patience and in jealousy shouts. Then Siska waves goodbye and heads back while promising them a discount if they decide to buy something. Later, Sane casually asks if she's close to Siska, and Alicia explains they've known each other since elementary school and that Siska dropped out once she became a blacksmith. Then she reminds him they still haven't chosen a weapon. Sometime later, when it's already late and Alicia gets hungry, she suggests eating something before heading home. So they end up at a bar where the bartender and several regulars already know her, and Sane realizes she's unexpectedly popular here. Alicia explains she used to horse around with Siska around this area and even worked at this shop, so there are plenty of familiar faces, and right then the bartender calls out to her asking for help, which makes Alicia snap back that he should hire more staff, while Sane quietly notes how liked she actually likes her. When the day of the exploration arrives, Alicia meets Melia already prepared, then asks where Sane is. He walks in wearing an outfit covered in chains, as he escaped from a discount Halloween dungeon set. Alicia stares at him until he explains that the chains are meant to restrain the beast within him. Melia leans in and whispers to Alicia to just let Sane enjoy his own personal fantasy world, which makes Sane snap at her immediately. Then he announces he's perfectly prepared for the labyrinth and has nothing to fear because of his powers, raising his hand dramatically just before something burns inside his chest, and he screams in pain, leaving both girls staring at him while he insists he does have power anyway. Alicia then casually tells Melia they should go ahead while he changes, but he yells at them to stop messing around. Once he settles down, he explains that stepping through the teleportation gate will take them straight into the labyrinth, and since it's dangerous, he plans to take the lead, though Alicia and Melia walk in first while waving their hands at him like he's entering his heroic era, which annoys him as he hurries after them. Inside the massive school labyrinth, Sane stares seriously at the entrance while Alicia and Melia get ready, but the moment they take a step, they freeze, shocked by the intense pressure inside and instantly sensing something lurking within. When Alicia tries to move ahead alone, both Melia and Sane stop her, saying they aren't letting her go by herself. Right before they enter deeper, Sane gives Alicia one last piece of advice, telling her that if a creature with blood-colored skin appears during their search, they shouldn't take it lightly and should run for their lives without hesitation. And suddenly, a horrible dark creature charges toward them, but Melia immediately extends her hand, chants her spell, and traps the monster inside a crystal as a misty curtain of illusion spreads around them. The air crackles with energy, and Alicia smirks with confidence, admitting Melia is strong, but this was on another level, while Sane watches with embarrassment as the girls handle everything so smoothly, and decides he can't afford to be the dead weight here. When another one-eyed creature appears, he stares it down and tries to focus his dark energy, activating his spell and firing a dark bullet. But instead of hitting the monster, he ends up blasting himself backward, crashing into the ground, and realizes he almost died again as Alicia looks at this good-for-nothing dude. Even so, hours pass as they continue exploring, and before long, they've cleared nearly 20 floors, which surprises Alicia. When Sane asks why, she explains they seem way too used to this despite it being their first time here, making her wonder what kind of exploration experience they even have. Melia casually clarifies that during previous dungeon trips, they always teamed up with the strongest upperclassmen who handled everything, and she adds that everyone has their own reasons for exploring, and at the very least, fighting today will be good practice. Although this time they aren't relying on cheats, which is why they managed to reach this deep. Sane then says this room should be their destination, even though nothing seems to be here, but Alicia walks forward and places her hand on a brick, activating a hidden door, making Sane stare in disbelief as she signals them to follow. Inside, she says it feels like they've cleared the first stage, and when Sane questions it, she explains that this is the heart of the dungeon, a place he never expected to exist in their academy. But before they can explore further, a group of bullies from their class show up, mocking them as the shame of the light faction and an F-rank guy, adding that the maid is the only capable one, which immediately angers Alicia as she snaps that they just run their mouths without thinking. Sane tries to calm her, though he quietly agrees their evaluation of him isn't wrong since his skills aren't good enough yet, which shocks Alicia because he's more self-aware and shy than she expected. Meanwhile, Sane's thoughts churn as he remembers the days he was actually an apostle of God, and hearing these guys feel safe because they assume nothing dangerous will ever happen to them. He thinks that being evaluated for who you really are is both a blessing and a harsh truth, so he tells Melia to stop making that terrifying face at those boys, and she recovers quickly, laughing it off while claiming she has some private business to settle, forcing Sane to calm her again. Alicia pulls them back on track and says they should focus on the Holy Sword, because she has a plan. Since the dungeon belongs to the Academy but is accessible to unaffiliated explorers, the sword is probably stored somewhere outsiders can never reach, meaning only Academy students would be able to find it, and Sane agrees that makes perfect sense. She then reveals the place they're headed to is an unusually spacious chamber, which confuses Sane while Melia quietly listens. And Alicia explains that students call this area the training ground because the monsters here are stronger and more varied than anywhere else, making it the perfect place for training. But from the viewpoint of normal explorers, it's a complete headache, which is why only students bother coming here. She says they need to stay alert, especially because this room is so quiet and there are no monster signs at all. But before she can finish, Sane suddenly notices something and shouts for Alicia to look out as an attack blasts down from above, a powerful strike of pure light that crashes into the ground, and Alicia barely dodges at the last second. Sane's eyes widen as he recognizes the attack as high-level light magic, not some half-baked spell, and he rushes to ask Miss Gold if she's okay. But before anyone answers, a boy steps forward, looking at Alicia with cold eyes and saying he can't believe she would come all the way to this place. The guy says that whatever lies ahead is far beyond her abilities, so she should turn back now, which instantly enrages her as she tells him not to interfere. But he continues coldly, reminding her that her own family calls her a disgrace, and yet she still clings to this magic academy, saying it's pathetic coming from someone of the Light Clan and insisting he only wants her to quit everything and live as a normal girl. Sane steps in at that moment, calmly says he can't ignore someone trash-talking his friend, especially when Alicia is the one who carried them this far. Alicia freezes, shocked that the dumb friend is actually defending her. But the guy scoffs and says Sane knows nothing about her, then starts exposing her background, explaining that the Ramia family is a branch of the Derja family he belongs to, and that 2 generations ago her grandfather had a child with someone from the dark lineage, causing a crisis because their blood is no longer purely light-aligned. He says, despite that, Alicia keeps flaunting her fire magic in front of everyone, and even if it isn't real fire magic, the public still sees it that way. So for the sake of her family's reputation, she should stop attracting attention since nobody expects anything from her anyway. Sane replies that in that case, Alicia is actually doing the right thing, because she came here to master the magic of light, and that should be good for her family in the long run. But the guy says he's heard that excuse countless times. And Sane argues that how many times he hears it doesn't matter as long as Alicia is still trying. But the guy dismisses him again, insisting that effort without results is worthless, then turns to leave. Sane calls after him, telling him not to disappoint others. And once the guy walks away, Alicia quickly thanks Sane, though he tries to lighten her mood by teasing that this is where she usually yells that she doesn't need dead weight, and then asks if she's okay now. Alicia says if mental strength were part of the ability test, he would definitely rank A, and Sane grins confidently, while she takes a breath to calm down before remembering she can't stop here, and declaring she'll get the holy sword no matter what and show that teacher exactly what she's capable of. They move forward until she stops at what looks like a dead end, and Sane agrees it seems like one. But Alicia steps closer and says this is where they're supposed to use the student card, so she holds out the card and takes a step, only for a spark to erupt in the distance as something charges toward her. Sane shouts for her to move, but before she can react, a swirl of dark energy erupts around her, and she screams Sane's name as he stretches out his hand, telling her to grab on, but the swirling aura pulls her in and swallows her completely, leaving only a cloud of smoke rising from the floor as Sane and Melia stare in shock, realizing they've completely lost her. On the other side of the labyrinth, Alicia finds herself thrown into another chamber and slowly realizes where she is. But before she can recover, a massive monster rises from the darkness and rushes at her, and she screams when she sees its crimson skin, realizing it might be the exact creature Sane warned them about, the one they were supposed to run from. She panics because the only exit is behind the monster, meaning she can't even escape, so she forces herself to calm down and reminds herself that her magic still works on monsters, and before it ends her, she has no choice but to attack with everything she has. She chants her spell, declaring the power to reduce everything to ashes, and unleashes massive waves of flames, the heat rolling over the monster as it screams in pain, yet still charges forward unfazed, and Alicia's horror grows as she realizes her strongest attack meant absolutely nothing to it. Her flames disappear like a joke, and she stares at the creature closing in, almost peeing in her pants, wondering what she is supposed to do now. Alicia notices the one-eyed creature launching a full firework festival of fireballs straight at her, far too many for her to dodge. And on top of that, the red monster itself stands unfazed as Alicia's magic acts as a big brag, but hits it with all the force of a wet tissue, pushing her into a spiral of flashbacks filled with insults and bullying that make her wonder if she truly lacks what it takes, wishing she had a stronger power. As she glances around in panic, her eyes land on a sword wrapped in a swirling black aura, surprising her just as she hears the footsteps of Melia and Sane approaching, realizing she sensed their presence at the edge of the labyrinth, but never imagined they would reach her this quickly. On the other side, Melia worries if Alicia is okay, knowing she could handle normal monsters, but feeling that something is definitely wrong this time. While Sane recalls their teacher's words about the Clan of Light, and how her magic could awaken properly under the right conditions. Yet he understands she is still just a student, and they cannot let her get dragged into their battle. Deciding that if things turn dangerous, he must grab her and run. As they move deeper, Sane feels the ominous presence grow stronger and gets a bad feeling, silently hoping Miss Gold stays safe. Meanwhile, Alicia reaches for the sword planted in the center of the chamber, wondering if this could be the holy sword, even though something about it feels disturbingly wrong. As she extends her hand, the black aura surges around her and engulfs her. Voices immediately begin to mock her as a failure of the Clan of Light, forcing their way into her thoughts. The figure taunts her, and she tries desperately to shut it out, but the illusion drags up her parents, calling her very existence a shame and claiming everything will disappear because of her, pushing her into a scream. In the middle of this storm, the comforting visions of Melia and Sane appear in her mind, telling her to stop pushing herself. And then Sane steps forward, asking gently if she is in pain and offering her comfort, a flame rising beside him as he tells her that what she seeks is right here, his presence easing her suffering until she finally gives in. From behind, she hears Sane and Melia calling her name and spots them as they rush toward her, both relieved and worried as they apologize for taking so long to find her. But when Alicia turns around, a surge of strange, dark energy bursts out, and she instantly swings her first hand at them. Melia reacts fast and pulls Sane back, while he panics and shouts at Alicia, only to realize she is no longer in her right mind and has already been corrupted. Alicia smirks evilly as some dark villain, and the dark energy coils around her hand and claims the holy sword is clearly the source of their infection, making Sane understand their mistake, realizing the enemy had sensed Alicia's potential too and aimed to corrupt her weakened heart. Melia anxiously asks what they should do now and whether they should fight her, but Sane says brute strength cannot heal someone's heart, and what they need are words, not force. Their goal is not to defeat her but to persuade her back, and to do that, he needs Melia's support, asking her to lend him her strength. Melia immediately understands and prepares herself with a spark of excitement that makes Sane briefly wonder about her enthusiasm, right before Alicia comes charging again, forcing him to warn Melia to get ready as they move to break her brainwashing. Alicia is going full final boss mode, while Sane calls out to her, addressing her as Goldie and asking if she can hear him, telling her to come back to her senses. He reminds her that she can fight off the corruption if she's willing to. For a moment, she seems to listen before she unlocks premium villain mode again, making Sane realize her defenses are far too strong to be her own power, and look more like something granted by whatever brainwashed her, leading him to think it might be better to settle things quickly. She suddenly falls quiet, and Sane notices she is acting strangely calm, prompting him to check with Melia, who also sees that Alicia doesn't seem eager to continue attacking. So Sane tries again, asking if she is already conscious. Alicia then lifts her gaze and says it doesn't matter anymore, claiming she is slowly learning how to control this power, and with it, no longer needs her light magic. She declares no one will mock her or stand against her again, and snaps harshly at them to leave her alone because she will live her life her own way now. Sane replies bluntly that it is not happening, and she stares at him in disbelief, demanding a reason, only for him to calmly repeat that he told her not to give in and not to surrender herself to a false power that came to her by chance. She snaps back that whether it's fake or real is her decision, and he has no right to tell her anything. Sane raises his voice and says he does have a reason because they are the same, but Alicia refuses to believe it, telling him not to underestimate her and insisting she is nothing like him because he has no idea what kind of feelings she has lived with all this time. Sane, still calm, tells her he understands and that he has faced the same wall she is facing now, and suddenly he charges forward, saying he will show her how to break through it. Something yanks her backward and Sane activates Dark Bullet, but Alicia mocks him immediately, asking what he thinks he will accomplish with such a pathetic spell, yet he ignores her and keeps firing dark bullets. She dodges them easily, growing annoyed and provoked, declaring she will show him what real dark magic looks like as she unleashes hellfire, summoning a storm of dark flames that explode across the chamber and leave Sane feeling like uninstalling him from reality. Alicia spots the fear and loves it, claiming even Melia is no match for her now, while Sane tries to tell her that power isn't truly hers. She refuses to believe it and insists it belongs to her, but Sane starts explaining that once he, too, received an incredible power, something people could only dream of, and used it to save others and grant their wishes until he was hailed as a hero, yet the person he truly wanted to save remained out of reach. He then asks her why she sought power in the first place, reminding her she had been chasing light magic for a reason. She stays quiet before snapping again, telling him to shut up, then bitterly admits that feelings don't change anything, that giving up doesn't make anyone look cool, that she never got the holy sword, and that every time she found hope it betrayed her, teaching her that life never works out conveniently. Sane replies that she may be right, but it is exactly because the path is difficult that people hold on to dreams. He says they cannot avoid pain or disappointment, and they will definitely get hurt and betrayed, but people keep moving forward because they have dreams, and he reminds her she has one to fight for too. She falls silent before finally agreeing, breaking down as she admits she does have a dream and wanted to see it come true. Sane sees the tears and senses a shift in the air, immediately warning Melia to get ready just as Alicia's tone darkens again. She says she won't let them get in her way anymore and hurls a massive stream of black flame toward them, declaring that this time it's over. At that moment, Melia activates Web Cutter, already prepared, and Sane reaches out, telling Goldie that he is just like her and that he too has a wish that won't come true unless he becomes the Dark Knight, which is why he is certain this attack will reach her. He extends his hand and fires a dark bullet straight into Alicia's heart, leaving her staring at him in stunned silence. Alicia snaps again, barking that his magic is so pathetic it doesn't matter how many times he hits her. It will never work, but Sane, already tired of her villain arc, fires back by asking why it hurts so much then, why she still hasn't given up. He reminds her that it took him an entire year to acquire that so-called pathetic magic, while she just unleashed flashy power out of nowhere, asking if that power is really worth more than everything she has worked for up until now. He tells her she should have realized by now that the pain she's feeling is something she brought upon herself. But Alicia shoots back that he's the one always acting edgy, and Sane snaps that this isn't the kind of pain he meant. She retorts that he's the one always spitting cringe lines, and Sane, annoyed, understands her point. But Alicia proudly declares that right now she is way cooler than him, saying the moment he realized that she had already won. Then she suddenly freezes, yelling in confusion as the black energy around her tightens and starts pulling inward like something is trying to consume her. Sane curses that power, yelling that if she won't become its puppet, then why is it trying to dispose of her? And Alicia's bravado immediately collapses as she panics and calls out to Sane for help. He screams her name and tries to grab her, but the next moment Goldie vanishes right in front of him, swallowed by the energy, and Sane is left staring at the space, realizing this is not the place where she should die. His mind snaps back to a memory from his childhood, where he is standing beside the goddess who praises him gently, saying he will become the greatest holy knight ever. He hesitates, unsure, but the goddess reassures him with warmth, saying he will definitely become one because he is kinder and warmer than any knight before him, and that everyone loves him. She tells him not to be like her, someone who is worshipped but nothing more. When she asks about his wishes or dreams, he thinks for a moment, wondering if he truly has one, and jokes that he only wishes his father would be less overprotective, prompting the goddess to say that it only shows how much he is loved. Then Sane asks about her own wish, and she pauses in silence, and Sane also reflects then, admitting internally that he does have a wish but not daring to say it out loud. His mind shifts to another day when the goddess approaches him cheerfully, asking what they will do today, only to freeze in shock when Sane tells her he is giving up on becoming a holy knight. The goddess cannot believe the way Sane is acting and grows worried, wondering if she somehow upset him. But Sane insists it has nothing to do with her, and that he simply found a new goal of his own, declaring with firm determination in his eyes that he will become a Dark Knight. She immediately panics, shouting that Sane is turning into a delinquent, demanding that he tell her the real reason, and Sane suddenly blurts out that it is because Dark Knights are way cooler than Holy Knights, explaining that he has realized light is outdated, and that this is the age of darkness where flawless, stylish, jet-black armor defines what a true knight should be. The goddess snaps back that Holy Knights are cooler and Dark Knights are absolutely not cool, and Sane, seeing her reaction, tries to calm her, but she refuses to settle down because he was supposed to become a Holy Knight, and she cannot believe he would say something like that so suddenly, thinking he must be joking. Sane assures her he is serious, and that giving up on being a holy knight to pursue the path of the Dark Knight is something he has already decided. But the goddess becomes furious, crackling with magical energy as flames burst around her, shouting that she will never accept this and calling him an idiot before running off and blowing him away. Melia approaches Sane afterward, asking if he is okay, and Sane realizes she has been watching the entire scene, but Melia reminds him he was the one who called her there and grabs his hand to help him up. Sane mutters that it cannot be helped since he basically betrayed the goddess, and Melia notes that his tone has returned to normal, while Sane admits it is surprisingly hard to get used to because he feels this tone makes him sound more like a Dark Knight. Melia tries to reason with him, saying that by giving up being a holy knight he will lose everything he has accomplished and will have to start over from scratch, maybe even below scratch, throwing away the peace and happiness he had. But Sane replies that he does not mind because if this is what it takes to make his wish come true, then he is willing, and he declares that he is determined to save the goddess no matter what. At that moment, Alicia appears from behind, admitting that Sane was right and that they really are the same, saying she had endless choices. mastering fire magic, giving up magic entirely, and living a normal life, countless paths she could have taken. But she rejected them all because what she truly seeks is something else. As her thoughts fade, Alicia feels someone calling her name and wakes up to Sane leaning over her, relieved to see she is okay, and she realizes she was having a dream about a younger Sane. He gently clarifies that it was not a dream at all. When their minds connected, his memories were shared with her, and given everything that has happened, he decides it is time to tell her the truth, introducing himself plainly as Sane, the current Holy Knight. Alicia recognizes him as the Holy Knight, and Sane notes that she does not look very surprised, guessing it makes sense after she has seen his memories. While Alicia says she believes him, after everything that has happened since they first met, it still feels unreal because the version of him she saw was the cringe one, which makes him chuckle, confusing her for a moment until he brushes it aside and says they can deal with that later because right now they need to talk about her memories. He asks how much she remembers, and Alicia quietly admits she remembers everything, including how they tried to stop her and how she tried to hurt them. But Sane explains that he noticed that thing lurking in the labyrinth from the very beginning and purposely kept the information from her. So what happened was his fault, and he apologizes. Alicia refuses to blame him, saying she knows he would never put someone in danger without a reason. She accepts her own fault as well, leaving them both silent for a moment until Melia jumps in to break the tension and reminds them they should save the emotional stuff for after they get back to school, because they are still inside the labyrinth. As they start walking toward the exit, Sane tells Goldie that from now on, he will explain everything about the circumstances they are involved in, but warns her that once she hears the truth, she will no longer be able to return to her peaceful life. Alicia yells at him not to look down on her because after coming this far, she is not running away. So Sane continues, explaining that he already told her he is the Holy Knight, but his maid is not only a servant in the household sense. She is literally a contracted servant who has received a portion of the Holy Knight's power and carries the servant mark on her body, meaning if he had died earlier, then everything she had done would have been meaningless. Alicia quickly thanks him for saving her, and as they continue moving, Sane explains that the thing that swallowed her was chaos, a power that has existed since ancient times and is more a phenomenon than a living being. He tells her that mana and even monsters are products of chaos, and Alicia says she thought these things had always existed naturally. But Sane clarifies it is not public knowledge because chaos has no will, no good or evil, and while it can create miracles, it can also cause destruction. So the gods sealed it away, though imperfectly, leaving remnants scattered across the world. Because the gods needed someone to maintain that seal, they created proxies, the Holy Knight and the Dark Knight, and normally chaos avoids them. But this time it was drawn to Goldie's power, which makes Alicia confused until Sane suddenly stops, sensing something, and realizes the main body of chaos has noticed them, and that they are heading toward the one responsible for brainwashing her. He declares that he will defeat it because it is his duty as the Holy Knight and tells the girls, as his servants, to stay out of it. But Alicia immediately cuts him off and says he should stop trying to carry everything alone because, before they are servants, they are comrades, so they will stay with him until the end. Sane smiles faintly and accepts it, and Alicia thinks about his resolve and everything he has given up, knowing the true reason he wants to become the Dark Knight. But before she can dwell on it, Sane signals her to be quiet because he spots something ahead. They finally see it, a creature of chaos, and Sane explains that among the remnants, this is only a minion, one of the lower ranks, though Alicia cannot believe it because her strongest magic could not even scratch it earlier. Sane says even a small fry born from chaos is nothing like normal monsters, but that makes this the perfect opportunity, and he announces Alicia will defeat it. She hesitates, saying her magic does not work on it, but Sane reminds her that as a servant, she now has new power, so the minion should no longer be a problem, and after taking a breath, she agrees. Sane calls her name and commands her to begin, and suddenly, energy flares inside her body, making her yell at him about what he just did. But he calms her and tells her to check her state, and she realizes her magical energy is overflowing. Sane explains that a servant can activate their power the moment their name is spoken, and Melia adds that in Sane's case, the power boost is too strong because if compatibility is high, Just calling their name can automatically trigger the servant bond. Alicia realizes that must be why he keeps calling them with all those weird names, and Sane admits it, while Melia jokes that since he cannot use their real names, he gets lonely and annoyed. The Chaos Beast growls and charges, and Sane tells Alicia that she possesses light magic, which confuses her because she uses fire magic. But he explains her fire is actually a type of light magic, and now she can unleash its true form. He tells her to believe in herself and not hold back, and she wonders why she feels so calm, thinking maybe fear has numbed her. But then she realizes she can sense it clearly, that in her current state, she can do this. She invokes her spell, and Sane explains that among light magic, there exists a rare class known as Sacred Flame, which purifies corruption. But it only works if a proper target for purification exists, so the spell fails otherwise, and he finally understands why her magic only worked on monsters. Alicia unleashes the Sacred Flame and realizes she has achieved it, and Sane smiles and congratulates her, saying her dream has finally come true. Alicia stares at him and asks if he knew all along, and Sane explains he suspected when she touched his cloak without being harmed, but became certain after seeing her magic, saying she should be proud because all he did was give a small push to the potential she already had, and everything she just displayed is the result of her own training. Emotionally, Alicia pledges that from now on, she will become his strength and fight by his side, and Melia thanks her while warning that it is a hassle with all the traveling and dangerous missions. But Alicia says that after surviving something like this, she will not waver again, and she stands ready for their next battle with determination burning in her eyes. Moving forward, Alicia and Melia prepare to fight the remaining creatures, Alicia stepping ahead and striking with her bare hand as a burst of light erupts and causes an explosion. And Sane watches this with quiet satisfaction, while Melia comments that it seems they have gained a very reassuring ally, which makes Alicia smile as she accepts the compliment. And Sane internally thinks that no matter how many of those small fries Chaos sends, it can't finish them off with something of that level, and sensing that pressure approaching, he tells it to stop hiding and show itself already. Soon cracks spread across the walls, and Sane quickly signals Goldie to engrave this moment into her mind, because what is coming is a higher entity of Chaos. And then the massive creature appears, an incarnation of Chaos itself glaring fiercely at them. And Alicia also senses the overwhelming pressure as Sane realizes it is far too soon for her to face something of this class. He admits this part of him is something he never wants to show others, this borrowed, absolute power that never feels pleasant to wield under someone's gaze. But Alicia tells him that, when she was brainwashed, he never looked away from her, so now it is her turn. And if he ever looks like he's getting tempted by that power, she will beat the sense back into him. So she tells him to go all out without worrying because she and Melia are watching his back. And with that he smirks, determined, and charges forward to end the creature in an instant. Chaos charges as well, but Sane warns that it picked the wrong opponent and releases his true power, light swallowing the entire chamber as he activates the Holy Sword and declares that now he'll show what a Holy Knight can truly do. And when the smoke finally lifts, Alicia stares in disbelief before looking at Sane with a small smile, saying he looks better with black hair, which makes Sane flustered as he smiles back in agreement. Later at the school, Sane explains everything to the headmaster, who reacts in disbelief at the idea of a man-forged replica being misused, saying he's not senile enough to hand over a genuine holy sword. But even a replica, though far inferior to a goddess-blessed holy sword, is still undeniably powerful, and he never imagined Chaos would exploit it like that. Sane clarifies that if it had been the real holy sword, Chaos wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near it, and the headmaster says he will recover all replicas he has deployed, while Sane brings up the more troubling issue, which is the location where they sensed Chaos. Besides the labyrinth interior, there was one more spot, the labyrinth transfer gate, so Sane concludes that someone must have brought Chaos inside through that gate, and the headmaster stiffens, asking if that means someone inside the academy is assisting Chaos. Sane says he'll investigate, and the headmaster apologizes for dragging him into it, then casually asks why Sane went into the labyrinth in the first place, and Sane admits he heard the replica could be reforged into a demon sword, but the headmaster instantly shuts that down and reveals that a demon sword is useless to him. If a holy knight touches one, the darkness inside gets purified, and it becomes just an ordinary sword, and Sane panics because no one ever told him that. While the headmaster jokes that it simply proves how ridiculous his talent is, leaving Sane feeling teased. Later, he goes to check on Alicia in his dorm, asking how she's feeling as she rests, and she says she's well enough to return to school now. But Sane tells her to rest a bit longer, although she refuses and instead says she wants to ask something, wondering if she should start respectfully with him now, and Sane freezes before exhaling and telling her to keep talking, whatever rubbish she used to. Alicia goes quiet and says that's impossible because after everything he has done for her, pushing her forward, showing her that cool side of himself, and on top of that marking her for life, she can't just go this way. Sane immediately gets embarrassed as Alicia then asks if he plans to take responsibility, and this romance-blind dude panics, finally snapping that the way she's saying it sounds like she's proposing to him. The next morning in class, the teacher informs everyone that 1 month from now the academy will hold off-campus training exercises, the location being the Forest of Troyes, about half a day's journey from the royal capital by carriage. And she explains that they will spend 10 full days there, and it won't be some simple excursion because alongside survival training, they will participate in mock combat against fellow students. Divided into teams of 4 where each defeated team grants 1 point, and any team that manages to survive until the end earns an additional 5 points, with final rankings based on total points. And since they are free to choose their teammates, she adds that the top 3 teams will receive rewards, 3rd place earning meal tickets, 2nd place earning permit allowances, and 1st place receiving the privilege of making any request directly to the headmaster, which immediately sends the class into excited cheering, while Sane only thinks about the meal tickets since the headmaster already owes him something. The teacher warns them to prepare well because this assessment will heavily influence their grades, and she pointedly tells certain unworthy students of her class not to show up, glaring straight at Sane, who panics as Alicia suddenly appears and asks why he's making that weird face. And when he tries to speak, she tells him it's just a rumor, but apparently class results will affect the teacher's evaluation too, which calms him a bit. Although Sane still tries to convince himself that the glare was simply her way of expressing her expectations for him, only for Alicia to immediately reject that and call it the opposite, making Melia laugh at her master's empty head, while Sane stares gloomily at the girls. Alicia then asks about their plans for the training exercise, giving Sane a perfect chance to roast her, as he says now he understands why she ran over to them so early, clearly scared she would get left all alone. Alicia snaps back, but Sane, with his nerdy attitude, says that since he's such a hot guy in demand, so she wants to grant him the honor of teaming up with her. But before Sane can answer, they hear some guys calling out to Alicia from behind, inviting her to join their group, and Sane's face drops as Alicia chuckles. Sane knows that just last month Alicia was an outcast, but ever since awakening her power, she has been performing spectacularly in school, earning fans and attention, and immediately he snaps at the guys declaring that Alicia is teaming with him, and Alicia blushes as the boys start fighting over her, saying they're making it difficult for her, and reminding them that plenty of people still haven't found a group yet. Enraged, Sane reminds Goldie that whenever Alicia gets attention, Melia starts getting attention too, and sure enough, Melia is surrounded by guys begging her to join them, while Sane loudly tries to flex, and says if anyone wants he can join their team and graciously bless them with his presence, only for the guys to shove him aside while calling him the moron of darkness as he crashes to the floor. Alicia approaches and apologizes, extending her hand while saying she already decided who she's teaming with, reassuring him that she has no intention of abandoning him. And Melia smiles and adds that she is Sane's servant after all, and Sane looks at the two of them and realizes this is that tsundere behavior he has heard about, wondering if he should avoid teaming with them altogether. Later, the 3 of them discuss the last teammate they need, and Sane asks Alicia if she has any connection since she has been here longer, and she thinks for a moment before saying she knows a girl who's not bad and might agree if they ask, introducing her as someone known among students as the guardian of the library. She then leads Sane and Melia to the library, showing them the path and explaining that when she was looking for a quiet place away from crowds, she met the girl there. and since their circumstances were similar, they got along quickly and eventually started talking. And when Melia wonders why the girl avoids interacting with others, Alicia says they'll understand once they meet her. Reaching the top floor, she says the girl should be there. And as they move inside, Melia comments that the room is awfully dark, but Sane feels perfectly comfortable since this dim atmosphere is actually pleasant for him. And he even notices that the room's owner clearly has good taste, making it a place most fitting for someone like him, a servant of darkness. And he begins rambling about the beast of darkness that slumbers within him until Melia tells him to shut up, which makes him apologize immediately. Then they hear a voice asking who's talking, and a girl in a hoodie peeks from behind a bookshelf, asking what business they have here. And Alicia steps forward, saying it's been a while, calling her Marnie, and the girl recognizes Alicia and stares at her in surprise. The group explains the situation to Marnie, and after listening, she wonders if they really came all the way just for that. And if that's the case, she tells them to wait, but Sane says so she's the legendary guardian of the library he has heard about, making Marnie freeze as she realizes students actually call her that. While Sane immediately rejects the title in his mind because he thinks something like that doesn't fit her at all, and something grander would be better. Something more dramatic and edgy like Lord of Darkness or a handful of other over-the-top names, until he suddenly lights up and proudly announces that he shall bestow upon her the perfect title, the Grim Reaper of the Stacks, the Grim Editor. Marnie stares at him in dead silence, while Sane, completely satisfied with himself, nods and says it sounds cool, but maybe they can shorten it to Grimmy. Which makes Marnie turn her gaze toward Alicia with a look that clearly says why she brought such a dumb friend to her sanctuary, while Alicia stands there quietly as if she has already given up on defending him. And Sane keeps insisting that the Grim Reaper part really suits her. Then Marnie simply keeps staring before quietly pulling down her hood, revealing her true self as a dark elf, and Sane's eyes immediately pop wide open in shock. Marnie's reveal hangs in the air, and while Sane tries to keep his cool, it's clear this is only the start of the trouble he's about to stumble into on this dark road. Comment Dark Knight if you want to find out in Part 2.